There are moments in sports that go beyond the scoreboard, moments that shake a franchise to its core and remind the world that emotion, not statistics, drives greatness. Sunday night in Cleveland was one of those moments. The rain was steady, the stadium restless, and the air heavy with frustration. Fans were tired of missed opportunities, tired of mediocrity, tired of waiting for the Browns to finally find their spark. But then, through the drizzle and disappointment, a sound began to rise. It started faintly from the lower rows, where young fans in orange hoodies and soaked ponchos huddled together near the field. Shedeur, Shedeur! It wasn't just a chant, it was a call for hope. Within minutes, that chant rippled through the stadium like a wave, echoing off the walls of a city that's been starving for a hero. For years, Cleveland has been a graveyard for quarterbacks. Countless names, countless promises, all fading into the same story of what could have been. But this felt different. This felt alive. The Browns' rookie quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, hadn't even taken a snap that night. He was still listed as QB2, watching, waiting, helmet in hand. Yet somehow, the people had already chosen him. Pre-game footage captured something extraordinary. Kids pressed against the barriers, waving handmade signs, shouting his name through the rain. You could hear it. Pure energy, pure belief. They weren't cheering for stats or highlight reels. They were cheering for possibility. Because to them, Shedeur wasn't just Deion Sanders' son. He was a symbol of what could come next, the face of change, the story of confidence, and the heart of a new era in Cleveland football. You could see it in his eyes, even as he stood quietly behind the starters. Composure, patience, that calm, grounded confidence that made his college days at Colorado so magnetic. He didn't need to say a word. His presence said enough. Fans saw it. Teammates felt it. And somewhere deep in the Browns locker room, the coaching staff knew it too. It didn't matter that he was drafted in the 5th round. It didn't matter that he was technically a backup. The people had spoken. And when an entire fan base begins chanting the name of a rookie before kickoff, it's no longer just about football. It's about belief. What made this moment so special wasn't just the volume or the passion. It was who was chanting. Kids, families, longtime fans who'd seen every heartbreak imaginable. Generations coming together in a rain-soaked stadium, united behind one name, Shedeur. That's not normal. That's not marketing or hype. That's movement. And movements don't start because of stats. They start because of authenticity. See, Shedeur's story has always been about proving people wrong the right way. Not with magnetic. He didn't need to say a word. His presence said enough. Fans saw it. Teammates felt it. And somewhere deep in the Browns locker room, the coaching staff knew it too. It didn't matter that he was drafted in the 5th round. It didn't matter that he was technically a backup. The people had spoken. And when an entire fan base begins chanting the name of a rookie before kickoff, it's no longer just about football. It's about belief. What made this moment so special wasn't just the volume or the passion. It was who was chanting. Kids, families, longtime fans who'd seen every heartbreak imaginable. Generations coming together in a rain-soaked stadium, united behind one name, Shedeur. That's not normal. That's not marketing or hype. That's movement. And movements don't start because of stats. They start because of authenticity. See, Shedeur's story has always been about proving people wrong the right way, not with apostrophe. Next to him, smiling, drenched in rain, but proud. That sign, that chant, that crowd, it was bigger than football. It was about trust. It was about wanting someone to fight for them the way they fought for this team. And while Shedeur didn't start that night, he didn't have to, because his presence had already changed the narrative. Before the whistle even blew, the crowd had already crowned their next leader. What we witnessed in that moment wasn't just hype, it was a shift. The kind of shift that doesn't show up on stat sheets, but changes the energy of an entire organization. The Browns may not realize it yet, but this was the beginning of something they can't control. You can't silence a crowd that's already made up its mind. You can't stop momentum once it starts rolling. And when that momentum carries the voice of a city, echoing through the rain, chanting the name of a young quarterback who hasn't even played a full game yet, you realize you're watching history unfold in real time. Because this isn't just about Shedeur Sanders getting his first home game. It's about the start of Cleveland's next chapter. And if this chant was any sign, that chapter's already being written. The noise didn't fade, it grew louder. Every chant, every voice seemed to carry the weight of a fan base that had finally found someone worth believing in. The stadium lights reflected off rain-soaked jerseys as the camera panned across faces. Kids with wide eyes, parents shouting through the storm, old fans smiling like they hadn't in years. It wasn't just a crowd anymore, it was a chorus. Shedeur! Shedeur! Even from the sidelines, you could feel it. The Browns bench turned subtly. Players exchanged glances, half amusement, half disbelief. They knew what it meant when the fans start calling another name before kickoff. It's not just support, it's a statement. And this statement was echoing loud enough for the coaching staff to hear everything. One assistant coach reportedly muttered, "They're chanting for the backup," shaking his head with a nervous laugh. But the truth? Nobody was laughing for long. Because what began as fan excitement quickly started to feel like a warning. A warning that the people of Cleveland were done waiting. In the locker room before the game, Shedeur stayed silent. Sources close to the team say he wasn't one for loud speeches or theatrics. He just sat there, headphones in, locked in, letting the noise above him speak for itself. You could sense the calm, that quiet kind of confidence that makes other players uneasy because they can't tell if you're nervous or just that sure of yourself. And that's what separates Shedeur. He doesn't need to tell you he's ready. He shows it. That same energy that made him a college phenomenon, that composed swagger under pressure, it's the same presence now, commanding a professional locker room. Veterans, respected. Rookies follow it. Coaches, they're starting to realize they can't ignore it much longer. By the time the Browns ran out onto the field, the chants had become thunder. The broadcast mics even picked it up faintly beneath the commentators' voices. "You hear that?" one analyst remarked on live TV. "That's not your typical pregame noise. That's the crowd calling for Sanders." And there it was, national recognition of what fans in the stadium already knew. The people weren't just asking for a quarterback change. They were demanding a culture shift. When Shedeur jogged to the sideline during warm-ups, the reaction was electric. Phones went up instantly. People shouted his name like he'd already led them to the playoffs. He smiled briefly, gave a nod, and went right back to his drills. Professional, composed, focused. The moment didn't overwhelm him. He owned it. Even Miami's players noticed. One defensive back reportedly turned to a teammate and said, "Yo, they chanting for the rookie already?" That's when you knew. This wasn't hype. This was real energy. For decades, Cleveland's been searching for a signal that things could finally change. And in that storm, under those lights, they found it. Not in stats, not in press conferences, but in a single name carried on the voices of thousands. That night, Shedeur Sanders didn't throw a touchdown. He didn't even step on the field for a snap, but he didn't have to. Because when an entire city chants your name before you've even played, you've already changed the game. To the casual fan, those chants might have sounded like excitement, a city welcoming its rookie star. But to anyone who's followed Cleveland football long enough, It meant something far deeper. It was frustration, disguised as faith. It was a message not just to the players, but to the front office, to the coaches, and to the NFL. The people are done waiting. Cleveland has been through this story too many times. New quarterbacks, new promises, same heartbreak. From Johnny Manziel to Baker Mayfield to Deshaun Watson's chaos, the cycle has always been the same. Hype, disappointment, rebuild. So when Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the scene, the reaction wasn't just about talent. It was about hope that this time, maybe, the story could end differently. Those chants weren't random. They were a culmination, the boiling point after years of emotional investment. Fans aren't just calling for Shedeur because of his name or his swagger. They're calling for him because he represents everything the Browns have been missing. Leadership, poise, authenticity. Reports from inside the organization suggest that tension has been building quietly for weeks. Players see it, coaches feel it, ownership hears it, and the chants just made it public. According to one locker room source, the noise was so loud on the broadcast that it caught the attention of GM Andrew Berry and even owner Jimmy Haslam. "It's starting," one insider texted. "The fans are making the decision for them." The irony is almost poetic. The Browns drafted Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, not as a savior, but as a long-term project. Yet in just a few months, he's become the emotional centerpiece of the franchise without even being the starter. That kind of energy doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a player connects to something bigger than the game. And that's what this truly is, bigger than football. Because when fans chant your name before you've thrown the pass, it's not just about ability. It's about what you represent. For Cleveland, Shedeur represents belief in something new, not manufactured hope, but genuine conviction. He carries himself differently. He speaks with confidence, but never arrogance. He looks like the future, and the fans feel it. In a league that often punishes individuality, Shedeur's rise feels rebellious. He's polished but unfiltered, humble but unafraid to shine. And in a blue-collar city like Cleveland, where fans see through fake smiles and empty slogans, that authenticity resonates louder than any highlight reel. Make no mistake, this wasn't just a moment of fan excitement. It was a message, a declaration, a public challenge to the coaching staff and front office to stop hiding behind process and patience. Because Cleveland fans had been patient long enough. The name Sanders doesn't just echo, it thunders. It carries the kind of weight that can open doors or crush shoulders, depending on who's wearing it. For Shedeur Sanders, that name has been both his greatest blessing and his heaviest curse. From the moment he was old enough to throw a football, the comparisons began. He's not his dad. He'll never live up to prime time. Those voices have followed him from Jackson State to Colorado, and now into the NFL. And while most rookies get the chance to grow quietly, Shedeur has never had that luxury. Every throw he makes, every interview he gives, every moment he shows confidence, it all gets dissected under the microscope of his father's shadow. But here's the thing, Shedeur isn't trying to be Deion Sanders. He's trying to honor him. That distinction matters, because what people often misinterpret as arrogance, the calm stare, the quiet confidence, the unwillingness to shrink in the spotlight, is actually survival. When your last name is Sanders, humility doesn't protect you, strength does. And make no mistake, Shedeur inherited that strength. The same unapologetic fire that made Deion a legend burns quietly in his son, but in a different way. Deion was flamboyant, loud, larger than life. Shedeur is surgical, cold under pressure, calculating, quietly defiant. Where Deion danced after touchdowns, Shedeur simply looks at the scoreboard and walks off. It's a different kind of dominance, but the message is the same. I belong here. Still, that message doesn't sit well with everyone. The NFL, for all its talk of progress, has always been uncomfortable with players who don't fit their preferred image of humble professionalism. A fifth-round rookie wearing luxury watches, smiling confidently, and carrying himself like a franchise player? For some executives and analysts, that feels threatening. The narrative turns quickly, from talented young leader to entitled kid with a famous dad. But that's the irony. Shedeur's not asking for special treatment. He's earning it, every day, in silence, through preparation and patience. Coaches say he's the first in the building, last to leave. Teammates say he never complains, even when overlooked. He's walking the hardest path in football, being the son of a legend and still trying to build your own. Deion himself has spoken openly about that challenge. "My son's got to be 10 times better than anyone else to be treated the same," he once said. That's the reality. And he's right, because when Shedeur steps on the field, he's not just competing against defenses. He's battling perception, legacy, and prejudice all at once. You can feel that duality in how fans talk about him. Some adore him, seeing confidence as leadership. Others resent it, mistaking belief for arrogance. But either way, everyone's watching, and that's exactly what makes him dangerous. In many ways, Shedeur represents the new era of athletes, unapologetically confident, media savvy, and fully aware of their power. He's not afraid to control his own narrative. He knows that every headline, every clip, every social post contributes to his story. And unlike most players, he's not running from it. He's shaping it. That's what threatens the old guard the most. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just Deion's son, he's the evolution of him. The refinement, the next stage of swagger, composed, strategic, and unstoppable. When fans chant his name in the rain, they're not just cheering for potential, they're cheering for rebellion. For a young man unafraid to carry a legacy that others would crumble under. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just the story of a quarterback trying to prove himself. It's the story of a son proving that greatness isn't inherited, it's earned. Play by play, under pressure, when the whole world expects you to fail, and Shedeur, he's just getting started.